Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our meeting 3 about consensus and decision making. Glad everyone's here. Full group. That's good. So the purpose of this collaboration is to develop a climate adaptation plan for the town of Exeter in collaboration with local researchers and scientists. And today I'm the facilitator, Selma Ader.
Sylvia Bonneluck, Exeter Town Planner.
Jeff Underhill, I work for the DA.
I am Steve Miller. Today I'm the process observer. I work for the Great Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve.
I'm Chris Gogland. I am the Energy and Climate Analyst for New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
My name is Paul Kirshen. I was the project convener, and I work for UNH.
I'm Chris Keeley, and I also work for the Great Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, and I'm on the engagement team.
I'm Steve Jones. I'm an independent researcher, and I'm part of the technical team.
I'm Tom Nadeedlik. I am a member of the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, also known as the DES.
Alright, so there's no new stakeholders in this meeting, so no introductions are necessary. Everyone has their agendas, which is good. So as you can see, the first thing on the list is that we will restate the ground rules and just reestablish everything before this meeting. And our ground rules will be basically avoid wheel participation, so if everyone can participate today, that would be awesome. We want to focus on Exeter. It's kind of important. And we want to have a respectful and organized culture. Alright, so the goal of this meeting is to develop a mission statement and guiding values. And in the last meeting, we kind of went over how everyone was feeling. And we talked about, Steve, what your goal is for Exeter to how the tools continue after collaboration. And Paul, you want to create a template and set an example. So maybe if we could all talk about our ideas again. Put them back out on the table, refresh everyone's memory.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Paul Kirshen again, and my big plan for this is to create a foundation to be used in other areas, so other towns and cities, and it could be adapted to many different places. So it's not only a plan for Exeter, but Exeter is just a foundation for future plans to be made.
Yeah, definitely as the town planner for Exeter, my biggest concern is feeling like the citizens are involved and their best interests are met.
Along with Paul, I would like to see a model, Exeter as a model for other states to copy.
I would really like to see the town of Exeter become self-reliable in adapting to climate change.
In the next few years, I really want to pursue energy efficiency, and it comes from like the little things, even like energy efficient light bulbs, to the grander scale and the big plan for Exeter.
What I sort of want to focus on, is just making sure that there is nothing drastic happening in the climate and something like that with like pollution in this area, and making sure that the people are feeling safe, sort of what everyone else has sort of touched on, making sure everyone that is in this area living knows that we have their interests in mind.
I just want to have the plan rely heavily on the community engagement, so that the plan is flexible whether the climate change is trivial or extremely dangerous.
Sorry, Tom, can you just kind of give me what you said again? About
Jeff
sort
got
of
it.
like it's more about like that we're stopping, sort of say like what's getting into the community, sort of like maybe pollutions. Like I focus on
okay, so
and
on
the-
the science aspect.
yeah. Sort of like I've done other research with like them.
He wants people to feel safe.
Safe
Is that what
as
you're
well,
Okay. Oh, public safety.
as well as sort of I guess reducing pollution if need be.
As far as I'm concerned, speaking as a healthcare management professor and an epidemiologist, I really want to make sure that everyone's health is managed well and that no one is kind of left in the dust and that everyone still has access to healthcare through this plan.
I guess one of my biggest interests is kind of like the model like we all talked about, but I also just kind of want to see like science being used to solve modern applications, I suppose. Yeah.
At our last meeting, someone brought up something about how, like, from the west, like, there's something coming over from the west. I was kind of curious about that.
Basically, I feel that it's not really our duty to solve the problems of pollution here because I feel like all the pollution that's coming over from Chicago and big cities to the west of us is the reason for our area's climate change. So I ultimately would like them to solve the problem, but until they do, we can do something about it locally.
So does their pollution moving?
Their pollution is moving from the west to the east.
So is it safe to say that even though it's not entirely our problem, we'd like to still work on the local level?
I definitely think that a lot of what Exeter is going through right now has to do with the Great Bay. The Great Bay is very close to Exeter. The water pollution, like everything that's going on there, is very big. I know Exeter has been going through a little bit of flooding because of the Great Bay, and I think we should focus on like that aspect of it as well.
From what I'm gathering from everyone, it sounds like basically we want to make sure that everyone's safety and that everyone involved is concerned, that all of our constituents that we represent are taken care of.
Correct.
Sort of with the Great Bay, like with the, do you know like exactly what is happening with the floodings or like anything from the Great Bay? Like what are you more focused on with like your work?
Okay, so I know that in the Great Bay there's been a lot of local pollution, and because of that, there have been just
There's been a lot of stormwater runoff. This is what they mainly
yeah.
focus on, like the stormwater runoff, flooding, the sea level rise, and then the non-point source pollution and habitat change.
And if you also, I did a research study not too long ago about ticks in the Exeter area, ticks being the insect. And studies have shown that like over the past like 20 years, the population of ticks has significantly increased, especially along like coastal areas of Exeter.
Has this affected Lyme disease?
Yes. So if you look at the like New Hampshire cases that have had Lyme disease, you can also see that increase.
Chris, what was the other thing you said? A different type of pollution, not solution. You said non-point. Was it
Non-point source pollution and habitat change.
habitat change?
Yes.
I know that flooding from the Great Bay has affected local business
Businesses.
owners because the Great Bay is situated where if it floods, it is right near like the Main Street area where there are like certain shops.
Yeah. So, just for those of you that are maybe from the Durham area, not Exeter, Great Bay is actually kind of in Durham, and then it's the rivers that all branch off. So like the Exeter River goes down, and so the river floods every spring.
Also, there's a lot of flooding with like the people that live around there as well, not just like the businesses.
Yep.
I interviewed some people at the at some of like the local
Along Water Street.
what's that?
Along Water Street.
Yeah, Water Street, and some of the housing locations around there, and some of the trailer parks as well. So listening to those residents, they say that there's been a huge like increase in the flooding that they've seen, and it's affecting like their housing situations.
like over time, that could also affect the fact that like if water does get into their home, there could be mold that forms, there could be health hazards,
Isn't
et
there?
cetera, that could like possibly affect like your area.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like what you touched on with the Lyme disease, as these diseases increase, we're gonna have to do something about it. And I think with this collaboration that we can try and not only envision what will happen as far as the climate change and come up with some models, but maybe also come up with some anticipated diseases and ways to attack them and prevent them. Maybe get the resources out there and the tools needed so that way people aren't affected by Lyme disease and protect themselves against it, wear repellent, or maybe if their house gets flooded, they won't be affected by poor drinking water, things of that nature. So with that being said, our guiding values, I would start off with saying that we really are very interested in how the climate change will affect the townspeople of Exeter in a whole, as a general whole. And so I think that maybe a guiding value could potentially be concern for their well-being.
The health and well-being of.
Yeah, not just
Yeah.
as far as like I'm concerned, definitely the health, but I think as a general consensus, it sounds like we all really are concerned for the well-being of everyone.
Which is why I
Should we,
think that
like-
it's like a main,
So health and physical well-being.
correct. Which is why I think that it's really important to have like not interview, but like, well, yeah, interview the people of Exeter and see what they want, how they want, what they want out of it. So if they want a certain like, I don't know.
I mean, they're gonna have to partake in the change,
Right.
Yeah.
and they have to be on board for everything we do for reducing fossil fuels and energy efficiency and everything like that.
So involvement of
Community.
community is going to be part of our goal.
Correct.
Also with that though, if like we're trying to reduce sort of what people in this area are doing, we also need to think about sort of legislation and if there's stuff like that needs to be changed.
That's
know,
not only on the local level, but
And
the
not,
state
it's the
level.
whole lot, like, exactly, the state level and everything like that, we need to be aware that if we are trying to change something like that, that it's not just an Exeter area, it is further on into the whole state.
And then from there to the whole country.
One thing that we discussed within the DES is the difference between like Route 1 and Rye. I know you guys are kind of from the area. Route 1 and Rye is kind of like there's a Shaw's down the road and then there's Market Basket, but you always have to travel in your car to get to each destination.
Yeah.
And like as opposed to downtown Exeter or downtown Portsmouth, they have like you park one place and you walk around to the different shops, so it's much
Right.
more energy efficient.
It's more universal parking.
Exactly. So we've just discussed the change that could be possibly made.
Just in the way
locally.
people function.
Yeah, and reducing the use of their cars and stuff like that.
So with all of this like environmental change and everything and with our guiding values, what direction do we see ourselves moving in to come up with and creating a mission statement as to what we collaboratively would like to see accomplished through this?
I think that we should first off establish which aspects of climate change are the most important to us, because at this point we have like a really broad overview of climate change, and I think maybe like we could pick like certain few to focus on.
Do you think that maybe if we picked like one specific cause, because I feel like one cause may be doing multiple things. So if you get it at the root, maybe that might.
Yeah.
Even just as like a starting point, just to get us.
I think when we
Going.
talked about maybe the flooding issues, maybe like the water sort of resource, like making sure that the water is being cleaned and everyone, like when it's going to people's houses and stuff like that could be like a huge issue, and we can't really prevent the flooding every year because it's gonna happen with change.
So we'll go back to this and just talk about particular aspect of climate change.
Well, I don't think that we should just narrow it down to one exact change. Like, we don't really know, like, what if that's not the reason? Like, what if something else happens? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like
mean,
we need to have, like, the plan that's gonna
I think it's
work
important
no
to have
matter
an adaptable
no matter what.
plan.
On a broader
Yeah.
scale.
Well,
So
that's the
different-
point of this
different
is,
models is, yeah, I think that's a huge part, is to have different models and not just.
I think that's why the technical team is working on coming up with potential scenarios, so then we can look at those scenarios and take each of those scenarios and kind of come up with a plan for each of those, then come up with like an overall
Plan.
umbrelling plan that will
yeah, that's,
ensure everything.
I'm a member of the technical team, and sorry that it's taking so long for us to actually get this work done, but we are taking different routes, and we're gonna have multiple like plans if something were to happen. So I think that we have to come up with one major overarching theme, and then we're gonna take care of like different scenarios. Like the flooding is one of the scenarios, and
Do you think maybe looking at like the problems and then like looking at every problem that that we have and then seeing what causes each one of those problems and seeing if there's like a lot of overlap?
I think that's a good idea. I think that if we can find it, or even come up with what the major pollution or climate change problems are, and then go from there. And then, well, there's sure to be overlap, and then the main ones we can come up with models for.
Yeah.
To adapt to those circumstances or situations.
And I'm also on the technical team, so maybe if that's not something we want to do as like a group, maybe that's something
The two of us.
I think that coming up with that umbrella theme for everything and encompassing what we really want would be a great mission statement, and then we can use that mission statement and apply it towards each of those scenarios. I think that would be a
I
good
agree.
idea.
So first, are we gonna focus on a plan to change the way things are right now, or focus on cleaning up what's already?
I think that we're pretty well, most of the things as of right now are working in the right direction, and we just need to ensure that we're continuing in the right direction to continue our efforts towards the climate change and like adapting to it, so.
I think a huge part of when I signed on and agreed with UNH that Exeter would be the right fit for this group is that we weren't necessarily looking to overthrow the way things function right now, but looking for plans in the future, depending on how climate change kind of plays out. And that's why I was really looking forward to different adaptable plans.
I really think that our next step should be talking to the people of Exeter. I really think that's a very significant factor in our plan. So the people that are in this group for connecting with the community and stuff like that, I think we really need to.
What should we be talking to them about?
We need to ask them what their values are, what like within the town, like what concerns and they have about the outcome of not only the climate change but of the plan as well.
We need to educate them better as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't know
what's
how-
happening
what's
and what
happening,
could happen.
what
I
the
think
problems are.
Might be beneficial. Definitely do that, but maybe we should come up with some scenarios or not solutions per se, but like ideas to like, oh, this is the issue that's at hand, explain what it is, and well, this is how we think that we could change it or something like that. So give them like what's going on and also like a way to make it better or in the future. So maybe, because we already talked to them a little bit, so if we can go back and talk to them again, but give them more information on what we're doing, it might make them feel more comfortable and get them on board.
And when they start understanding more, I feel like action is actually going to be able to happen. So if they don't really understand what's going on, they're not going to want to support this, and they're not going to want to back us behind what we do. And if we're going to be, going through their community and doing all these things, we really need like their backing.
Definitely.
So it sounds like the mission statement that we're kind of looking for is like ensuring by using these models that we will come up with, using them to kind of ensure the safety and security and well-being of not only the citizens of Exeter but the town itself, including the businesses and everything else, and ensuring that it's a sustainable town for continuation.
I feel like it's like somewhat difficult, at least from like my perspective, that to like find the right time, like the right questions, and the right methods to kind of like engage with the community to revise the plans and strategies. Because how are you supposed to approach that? Like, what questions are you supposed to ask them? Like, and I don't know, like.
So maybe instead of constructing a concise, specific mission statement, we could just kind of move towards what we want to include. So, is it okay to say that we want to incorporate our guiding values?
It's a lot of guiding values.
Well,
yeah, we're gonna have to
Well, I mean, we're
narrow.
not going to list them off, but
I think,
I mean, I didn't know
I think
how
we should use those to
structure it.
structure it, to like kind of use those values and base our mission statement off them.
And I think that another point for the mission statement is we want to make sure that people know it's adaptable. So while we are focusing on Exeter, it's really going to help many other towns. So like it's bigger than just Exeter, even though this is just our starting point.
Kind of like a tool for other towns to base it off of.
Right.
so I'm
Template.
just a little confused right now. It's like, are we focusing on so we're focusing on like a broad kind of climate change plan, or are we going? You said we're doing an umbrella kind of.
Well, I think the mission statement is the umbrella, and then the technical team is focusing on different scenarios. So like the flooding is an example. So we'll have a little plan for that one in case a flood comes up, or what are other ones that we're working on?
Sea rise or something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna have like
Or it's
multiple plans
Fascinating.
in place that could be used in the future if
Okay. Because I
things
feel
were
like,
to arise.
Because I feel like as part of my job, I have to go out and kind of like I'm one of the people that like kind of goes out and talks to the community of Exeter, and from their point of view, I feel like it may be easier for them to understand, like if we had like concise things to tell them, because
Right.
when you throw out all these like terminology, all
Exactly.
this scientific terminology at like people that don't necessarily have a degree, they
Obviously
get
they're gonna
really
worry.
confused.
Just
That's why I
Well,
think that it's really important that our like mission statement is kind of easy and like anyone can understand it, and then the
Yeah.
plans itself are going to be the complicated part. We can say flooding where you have a plan for flooding, but really it's going to be a lot of like engineering and that kind of stuff that people won't understand.
So there's really no need to explain that to them then.
Yeah.
Just say we have the plan.
We have a plan in place,
It will be
This is
beneficial
how
to
it'll
you.
affect you.
Yeah.
and we can explain the plan and be more than willing to do that, but I think that the mission statement will be easy for everyone to understand because it will be in plain English.
Okay, so are we including in our mission statement what like our plan is going to include, or no? Like, well,
That'd be too long.
broad.
We're here today to figure out or start narrowing down what we want to do. This project is on all of us, and we're trying to bring out all of our constituencies through us, like we're helping other people. So whatever you feel is necessary, we're gonna make the best we can make. Combine them.
I think the goal of this meeting is pretty much just to come up with the guiding values and the overall mission statement.
Right.
And the next time we meet, I think that we can discuss possible solutions, and maybe the technical team can bring some sort of a few models or something, and we can go from there.
Definitely.
I'm going to go over the notes and we can do acceptance of the minutes.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so our interest, which we have done over every meeting, a model not only for Exeter but for other towns throughout New Hampshire, making things energy efficient, making sure after the team withdraws from Exeter that they're able to maintain self-sufficiency, public safety, healthcare, science as a base to modern problems, and our ground rules have stayed the same. We had a discussion about pollution coming from the west and how even if it might not be our problem, we need to work on the local level. Great Bay is affecting Exeter and other towns in the seacoast because of the rivers that run off from it. Being aware of our constituents. Types of pollution include non-point habitat change, and the issue of ticks and Lyme disease is becoming more pertinent. Flooding, which is probably the most visually noticeable change for the residents because it affects them, for all the ones that live along the river. And for our guiding values, health and physical well-being, involvement of the community, being aware of the big picture, local, state, and national level, giving citizens opportunities to make individual changes such as parking and light bulbs. In a potential mission statement, we want to incorporate parts of our guiding values to help structure it. Make sure everyone knows that it's adaptable, it's bigger than just Exeter. And talking about climate change as a whole, we don't want to limit it to one aspect. Create multiple plans that are adaptable, examine cause and effect situations, and make sure we maintain community outreach throughout the project, looking at their values, concerns, and educating the citizens. But did I miss anything?
I don't think so, maybe.
There's just a question that I remember someone asked me about money and spending, and they were just wondering, will the community be affected, and if so, how do we plan on coming up with that, and if we want to talk to them, if they'll,
Steve
they know
actually was able to receive a $683,000 grant
So
for
that's,
this project.
still in it. That's funding for us, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
But
the
like,
community of Exeter, they're gonna have to make changes as well. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
what
that-
I'm adding
I think
on.
that once we come up with the plan, then it's something that the local town administration needs to look at and see if it's adaptable for them into their budget, and then allocate some resources.
okay.
So,
I just
people
know,
of
just
The-
because when we talk to the community members, they're gonna wonder if they're gonna have to
so-
put, so we're gonna have to
I
have
Maybe
an
we should
answer.
ask them.
as town planner, I guess my biggest concern, or the taxpayers' biggest concern, would definitely be how this is gonna reflect in their taxes. And, are we gonna be making changes, like, when you build a new school, your taxes go up? Are we gonna implement this huge plan and then they're all gonna be paying for it, whether or not they agree to it or not? So, I definitely think it's important for us to take this grant and create a plan that's adaptable and flexible, depending on and creating a plan where they can vote one way or the other.
And I think too, if we get down our goals and what the actual project that we're going to do is, and we bring that to them and we say, okay, this is what we plan on doing. Would you support raising your taxes by X amount?
Right, like a scale or something.
Yeah.
So we'll cross that bridge when we get everything done.
So,
Yeah, so as of
again,
right now, our group is funded by the National Estuarine Research Reserve. So we can form our plan. We have
The
this
money to
allotted
decide.
amount of money to, how much is it again, DJ?
683,000.
So we have this allotted amount of money to create our plan, and that'll be kind of like a kickstart for the town of Exeter.
Okay.
But like we were saying, we should definitely focus on what they can maintain afterwards. So that I feel that all falls part of working with the town of Exeter and kind of working with the municipal court as well and seeing what they can actually afford on a year to year basis after we have
Finished their
completed
plan,
our
yeah.
project.
Do you think that if the town doesn't accept our changes and things like that, are we going to revise it, or
I feel like
they
we're gonna
don't
have to
fund
revise
it?
it.
I mean,
if there's something that they don't fund, should we start looking for other?
right, so
meetings or-
when I signed on to be a part of this collaborative group with UNH, other universities contacted my office, and I chose UNH because of the openness that all of you guys had to creating different plans. And so I think what we would do is not say, okay, here town, here's the plan we created, yes or no, but oh look, we have these different models, and how can we best implement them in a way that would fit your needs.
Maybe get them to work with us to make the
Right,
plans.
and so during the process, it's not, that way we don't put all this work in and then at the end, oh, just kidding, the town doesn't want it. So
Yeah.
the
Right.
taxpayers voted no. So go find a different town and try again.
Also, I think we need to add a stakeholder to our meetings, which would just be a regular councilperson.
Right, because I mean,
Or
me and
business
Steve
owner.
and I
Right.
can't always get everyone's
Right.
Right.
Now-
opinions from the community.
When we add a stakeholder, is it gonna be the same person every time we meet, or different people, or that's just something we need
Right,
to?
that's,
I think we should form a citizen
Maybe
kind
like a
of group.
Because it's gonna be
and,
different from a parent
like a
versus
citizen
an old lady.
advocacy type group.
Yeah.
Okay.
So form this group and base it on basically volunteer status and
So
If we could come up with that, and maybe since there's already a lot of stakeholders here, if we could have them kind of meet and they come up with a consensus based
So-
on what their opinions are, and then they send one member to come
Each
meet with
time.
us, each meeting we have,
Or
and they're represented as well.
That's a good idea.
in my mind, what I was thinking is, so the scientists and the technical team, when we're not meeting, you guys are working on plans and
Right.
models and all of the specific things. But if we created a citizen group, like I heard was
We have a citizen group.
okay, so if you got part of the engagement team and you guys, and maybe myself as a member of Exeter, go and meet with them, and then we can collectively come back here. Is that kind of what we were thinking?
I think that would work, unless you wanted to bring a person to our meetings as well, whatever the group thinks is best.
I'm fine with bringing people in meetings.
Me too.
I think a little bit of both
Yeah, I'm open
would be
to
great.
both. Okay.
Okay.
So the
Um,
stakeholder, it wouldn't be necessarily a permanent member, but
right, it could be,
It would
It would
change.
just be a voice
okay,
of
so
the
a
community.
representative. Maybe even two, so they're not overwhelmed.
Any other questions or comments?
Does anybody have any issues with this?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I missed it or not,
That's okay.
but Paul, you mentioned if we're gonna have the same people over and over
Yes.
again, what did we agree on for that?
I think
It's a little
the
bit of both.
the group, like, I think the consensus was that we'll have the engagement team meet with citizens, the citizen group, and kind of get their feel from there. And then if one of them wants to come every week, or it's kind of on them if they want to come to these meetings, that can happen, or our liaisons that are going to be there will also be here.
We meet only once a month with the citizen group, so,
We don't meet that often anyway.
okay.
Oh.
No, we're good, forget it.
I'm open Twitter.
I think my last question is, when do we plan on meeting next
In real life.
in real life?
Wait, hold on.
Wait, was
I
I supposed
think
to say
we need
that?
to motion to accept the minutes for this meeting.
Oh, just kidding.
Someone second it.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those not in favor?
See you guys next time.
Meeting complete.
Okay.